Champ, welcome to the Way of Champions. It's an honor to have you on, a true champion.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's great. I learned in getting ready for this that it was your mom who first called you champ. Where'd that come from? Because I know you were the middle brother. Were you winning all the fights or what?
Not at all. If anybody knows, I had a older brother who was 3 years older and a younger brother who was bigger than me. So I tried to, calm the fights and stay out of trouble. But it's funny. She never really could explain consistently where that came about. And she said she just started calling me that, and it just kind of stuck. I'm junior, so for me, it was always a point to not be called the same as my dad. So something had to give. So Champ just kind of stuck around, and my cousins and all my older cousins bought into it, and the rest is history.
Yeah. My dad called me Goose when I was little, and I never liked it. And thank God no one else picked up on that one. So,
Well, it's funny, like when you have a nickname, you can either lean into it or you could quickly kill it. Like unless you just become too popular too early,
dude, yeah.
but fortunate for me, I didn't have to kill mine.
Thank God I wasn't. So I grew up in New York, and the Yankees had a relief pitcher named Goose Gossage at the time, and I think that's where Goose came from, and I don't know why else it did, but again, thankfully it never stuck because I always hated it, and so
Good for you.
um, talk about your brothers. I mean, you had two brothers, both who played at Georgia, like you, both who made it to the NFL. What was that like growing up in that household? I mean, I gotta imagine just competition and things was a big part of it all.
Yeah, well, we landed in my hometown, Folkestone, Georgia, when I was in kindergarten, I believe. And that was my dad was in the army, so we moved around. And then that was right at the age where my brother could start playing football. So, he starts playing football. I mean, we're just, kids in the neighborhood, just new to town, whatever. But my family is from Folkestone, a big family. My dad grew up there, my mom grew up there. So, people knew us, but at the same time, they didn't, on some level. So
Mhm.
it was just so for us, we stuck together. Like we were very close. We did everything together. We slept in the same rooms. It was just we had no choice but to watch each other's backs, and we quickly found out how athletic we were just following our brother. Like my older brother Ron, he was just good at everything.
Mhm.
He wasn't great. He wasn't the best, but he was just really good and consistent. And, once I came about and then I was like a little better. And then people were like, oh, these Bailey boys. And then we started making a name for ourselves. And, we sort of had to protect that, because some kids didn't like it. so so it's one of those things where, you would imagine boys being that close in age because my younger brother's 16 months younger than me. So
Yeah.
we were basically twins, according to everybody else, or at least they thought we were. So we really had to look out for each other. We did that. Like I said, we had a big family, so it was easy for us to always find support. Small town, everybody knew everybody, and if you either played sports or you got in trouble.
Yeah.
And we didn't want the latter. We stayed, kept our noses clean.
Yeah, do you remember or recall like there's some evidence and research in sports about how sometimes it's younger siblings that reach the highest level because they've been chasing after their older siblings their whole life, right? Nothing's handed to them, and you wanna go play football with your older brother. You better keep up because he's not gonna have you hang around his friends if you're not, like do you feel like you all kind of pushed each other to this? I mean, three brothers that make it, to the level you guys did is super rare.
Yeah, you're spot on. I mean, that's the nature of our relationship is I was trying to do what he was doing, but I often wanted to be better.
Hmm.
And that's really what paved the way for me. I mean, I tried to do everything he did. I played the same positions he played. I went to the same school he went to. So it was an easy blueprint for me. And,
Mm.
I was fortunate to have that, and I pretty much had that all my young life. Like, even when I got to the league, I had a blueprint, like,
Hmm.
because I played with Daryl Green. And then the second year, I played with Daryl and Deion Sanders. So can't get a better blueprint than that. So I think the best thing I did was pay attention and follow the right people. That's ultimately what propelled me to a Hall of Fame career.
Yeah. And I want to get into your positive athlete work later because I think that a lot of that is about that, right? Is like how
Hmm.
do you highlight the right people? But maybe talk about Daryl Green or Dion or other teammates that you had. Like what made a great teammate or what made a great pro or what made a great college player in your eyes? What were the things that you saw in them? Because the things that people say about you. I was reading like Mike Shanahan, he's like, yeah, some people have the athleticism and some people have this, but I think the word he used was urgency. Like you had
Yeah.
this urgency about you of like, I want to keep getting better. I'm not done. I'm never happy. I'm never settled. Is that what you learned?
Well, I honestly can't say the mind the I can't use the right term for the right mindset I had. I don't know how to explain it. All I know is I wanted to be great every day. Every time I showed up to practice, I wanted to dominate practice. And I honestly don't know where that came about. I just knew I had in me the idea of, when I'm in a competitive environment, I want to dominate the competition. And I approach practice that way. And what I came to learn is that's how I win games. And I win my battles in games because I wouldn't say it's effortless, but I'm used to what it takes to win those battles
Yeah.
because I've done it over and over again in practice. I mean,
Yeah.
and
Years ago, we had this guy, Bo Eason, on the podcast who was,
yeah,
D-back in the league as well. And he talked about like his last year in the league, he was teammates with Jerry Rice. And he said,
oh yeah,
they do like a simple little, run 10 yards, turn, catch, and everyone else jogs and stops. Like Jerry Rice would catch it and sprint into the end zone every
yeah,
time. And this was like near the end of Jerry Rice's career. And so he said he went up to him. He's like, dude, you're Jerry Rice. Why are you sprinting 7 yards? He goes, because every time these hands touch the ball, that ball's going in the end zone because that's how I want to play on Sunday.
yeah,
And it sounds like
yeah,
that was your thing as well.
absolutely. And man, I try to teach these kids that today, and they just don't get it. And I'm like, that is not what you're gonna do when you catch the ball.
Yeah.
Like when you when you catch an interception, what do you want to do with it? Score. So work on that. Like
Yeah.
make it, emphasize it. Like make it a priority of yours to finish the drill. Like I know you're tired, but when you get in the game and you have to take it 90 yards, you want it to be commonplace. You don't want it to be something that you've never done. Like, no, this is what we do every day in practice. And when you watch games, the way people perform is the way you want to practice. Don't wait till, the lights are on. Like, do this when it's dark outside. Like, this is what it's about.
That sounds like that's what like people ask me a lot like what's the one thing when you're driving along and you see some sports practice taking place makes you want to pull your car over and go stop, stop. Don't do that, right? And that sounds like that's it for you. Like make it look like the game, finish the play, do what you would do on game night. That's what you have to do every day in practice so it doesn't require any thought.
Yeah. And it should be second nature. Like, your instincts are what's going to win you battles. But you build those instincts based off what you've done repetitively. It's
Yeah.
not don't just think, yo, I'll turn it on the game. No, it just doesn't work like that. If you want to be great, you have to be great every day. And it becomes a very tedious, boring process. But you better learn to love it. Like you better just dive into it and just understand this is what it takes to be great. And I don't care what anybody else is doing. This is what I'm going to do. So you start raising the level of competitiveness in practice, which makes you a better leader.
Yeah.
Like leading by example is probably the hardest way to lead. Anybody could tell you what to do, but can they show you over and over again No matter if it's a coach or a player, can they show you? Showing somebody and doing exactly what you expect them to do right behind you is the best way to lead. I mean,
Yeah.
there is no other better way. Like there's other ways to lead, but doing it is the best way.
Where did you learn that? Like, were you a captain in high school and stuff as well? Like, where did you first learn that? Because I get a lot of kids and I say, how many of you have been told to be a better leader? And everyone raises their hand. I'm like, how many of you have been taught to be a better leader? And then they put their hands down, right? So, like, who taught you that?
I, I gotta be honest. I learned that from the guys in front of me. Like
Yeah,
I had a leader in my house, my brother. He that's just how he performed. He was
yeah,
just like that. And then when I got to college, it was more than just my brother. Because I got to college, my brother's in his third year, fourth year, I think. And I was a freshman. So his class consisted of Mike Bobo, Robert Edwards, and then you had Heinz Ward, upperclassmen. These dudes would go so hard in the off-season workouts. And I'm like, wow, I don't care what my coaches were telling me. This is what they were talking about. Like,
hmm
this is what matters. And I could see it. And when you see it, there is no confusion about what it takes. Now you know, okay, this is it. You could tell me over and over and yell at me as a coach. It just doesn't have the same impact. Now you might get me to do it, but somebody else that takes a little more to get motivated, it might
yeah,
not work with them. So
yeah,
you have to consistently have people leading. That's why I'm always a big believer in you have to empower the leaders on the field.
yeah,
Every coach has to do that. If you don't empower some leadership group on the field, whether it's the seniors, it's the 10-year pro, whatever it is, you better make sure that they set the bar. Coach's voice can only go so far.
yeah. I mean, I think it's so critical. I'm working on a book right now for like high school team captains, and I
Oh,
think I reached out to a lot of coaches and captains and said like, well, what are your biggest challenges, right? And so we can like walk through this. And I think this is it, modeling the behavior that you expect of others. And then the other part is like holding people accountable, who especially your friends, right? Like that you want to be liked and you're more worried about being liked than respected. So it's like, yeah, this is the standard except for you because you're my roommate. And but no, like a real leader is like, no, this is the standard for me and everyone else. And if you don't model it, it's just not real.
it, spot on. Like
Yeah.
you have to find the model, like, and you have to show it. And it has to be understood. Like there's so many different components to making somebody believe it and then trust that they could do it. And this is what it takes. Like it's so many little things that has to happen, but you got to find out what it is, what that niche is. But again, it's always going to go back to who's really doing it over and over again. And I got to keep pointing to that. And Shanahan would always point out stuff I was doing in practice. I'm like, well, I was really because when I got to Denver, I was really focused on doing the work.
Yeah.
And I wasn't focused on everybody else. Like I was just like, what I got to do this, do that. And I'm getting comfortable in this new environment, whatever, new teammates, everything. And he would always point to me in practice. I'm like, well, damn, what else am I supposed to do? Like,
hmm
this is what you're supposed to do. I'm a pro. Like I'm
hmm
supposed to do this stuff. But then you start realizing as you become a leader and your people are looking at you because it's a different mindset when you go from one team that you've been with for 5 years. Now I'm a 5-year pro in Washington. Then I go to Denver. And then now I'm the highest paid at my position. And I was more eyeballs and people are looking at me as the example. So I never felt that pressure because this is what I do anyway.
Yeah. You never had to
Like it,
change.
I didn't have to change who I was,
Yeah.
but I didn't understand the impact that much. And that's when it really became obvious to me, like what it really means to be a leader. Like this is it. And I've always followed those footsteps of the guys that were leading on the field, but I was just doing it because that's what I knew.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You always sign off this podcast with like your influence is never neutral, right? Every time you walk
Yeah.
into a room, every time you step on the field, you're going to leave either a positive or negative impact, right?
Yeah.
It's never nothing. And so being aware of that influence makes you, just makes it that much more powerful, right? And
Yeah.
like you knew this, you did this, you had this influence. And people can complain about his contract or this or that, but it's like, but you know what? I can't complain about the guy puts in the work,
Yeah.
right?
And then they stop complaining about the contract and this and that because
Yeah.
now, because, oh, damn, this is why,
And
you
you
know?
also find, right, that like, I mean, I'm sure you can probably list tons of people that maybe you might say had natural ability and things that you played with, but they didn't have that and they don't make
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to have those other things to really play at the top level. And then obviously to be a Hall of Famer like you, like it's you don't just skirt by on, God-given abilities.
Yeah. After 28 years of playing football, look, I've seen some very, very talented individuals not make it all the way from high school. Well, hell, I could go all the way back to Pee Wee ball,
Hmm.
all the way through my last year in the league. Like I've seen talent that doesn't get maximized because they don't buy into the process
Yeah.
and what it really means to go out there and perform because it's hard, man. That's why I'm always telling people, man, I respect athletes on another level. The ones that have been consistent, the ones that people speak highly of, the ones that people say, oh, he was my mentor. What, like, those are the ones I respect the most because you have to be so consistent, even on the days when you don't feel like doing anything. You just have to find a way. And that's what discipline is all about.
Yeah, we just interviewed Shane Battier for the podcast here. He's a
Okay.
basketball player, and he talked about playing it in the culture of Duke and winning a national championship, and but just how competitive it was. And when he got drafted into the NBA, his first team wasn't like that, and he was like, "Here I am, I'm in the league, I'm in the show." And
Yeah.
he's like, oh my God, like all these guys, the big names, like they're not working hard at practice. They're not whatever. And he said, I stood up at this first meeting. We're not doing well. And I said something. And the main guys on the team said, shut up, Dookie, sit down, rookie.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's like, whoa, he thought it would be this much more. And it wasn't that culture. And so, but what he talked about was like him and Pau Gasol, they were both drafted that year. They just started showing up early, those two, right? And then
Hmm.
they started doing some extra fitness, just them. They didn't ask anyone. And slowly but surely, it was three guys, it was four guys, it was
Yeah.
five. And then by their model, it was uncomfortable not to do the extra stuff, not to
Yeah.
practice a certain way. And those other guys who might have had a lot of ability sort of self selected themselves off the team.
Yeah. That's how it works.
That's how it
Right.
works, right?
And you end up weeding yourself right out of the game.
Yeah.
And, that's a good example of, his voice was never going to be powerful enough to just stand there. Why? Because his body of work wasn't there yet.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
You're a young guy, you're in the locker room. You gotta definitely know your place. I mean, I appreciate the fact of him standing up. Now, if I was a veteran in that room, I would have had a different reaction. But
Right.
you know, I'm a big believer in, if you want to get on the field, you better be doing extra. You better
Yeah.
be doing more. Like, and when you're on my scout team, I don't care if I played in every game this year. If it's week 16, you better continue to go 100 miles an hour because if you don't do your job, you're likely to go home. I'll slow down. I'll try to save my legs here and there, and not run as hard. But I've earned that right to do it in those moments, and people know why I'm doing it
Yeah.
because it's obvious. Because I don't feel like if there's a day when I'm not going top speed, that it has to be known amongst my teammates because I don't ever want somebody to think that they could do it. Right.
Right.
So I'm always like, you go hard. I don't care. Like, you haven't played a down this year. Like, what?
Yeah, you better go hard in
I'm not going
practice.
to ask you to slow down. Like, you
Yeah.
better go hard. Beat me every play. Like,
Yeah.
you got to find a way to play. This is your career, your livelihood. Look out for that first, and the rest will take care of itself.
Yeah. I mean, you're wearing, for those who are just listening to this, Champ's wearing it proudly his Georgia Bulldog shirt here. Do you think like in the era of NIL now, I don't know how involved you still are in the program, how you go back. When we look at college sports now and the money that kids are making, like, is there no hunger in paradise sometimes?
You know, it's unfortunate because yes, the lack of hunger is there. And, it's not the kids' fault.
Yeah.
And this goes back to leadership, and it goes back to structure. Um, it just goes back to the basics of what it means to be successful in a certain environment. And the environment they're in that's been created for them doesn't benefit them long term
Yeah.
because ultimately these kids should be compensated because they're generating business.
Yeah.
I would never argue against that.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
the I think the problem is it's part of the conversation about who you allow to mentor you, the school you go to, what's important to your development. That's what's really important at this moment between 18 and 22. Like
Yeah.
that is the most important thing. And as an adult, as we sit here with gray beards, we know this. We
Hmm.
know this. So I'm actually happy that NIL wasn't around when I was around because it would have been a distraction.
Yeah.
And it's a distraction now because we're not emphasizing what's really important at this moment in their lives. Now, what is the outcome we're all looking for? We want them to become the best pros they could be. Now, to become a pro doesn't mean going to the league or getting a shot at the league. It could be anything outside of your sport because we all hang them up. I don't
Hmm.
play. And really that's what positive athlete and I know we're
Hmm.
going to get to it, but that's what the positive athlete is all about.
Yeah.
We have these kids in a moment where they're in these highly scrutinized environments that demands such a dialed in mentality on the process, discipline, consistency. You can't find a better moment to really pour into somebody and help propel them to the best future possible for themselves.
Yeah.
So
And
that means, yeah,
go ahead.
delaying their pay, making sure that they have everything they need in order to thrive in this college environment, paying them to graduate. Like there's so many ways you can compensate them while they continue to develop who they're going to be.
I always feel like too, you could like recognize what college basketball and football have become, which is, let's just call it the minor leagues, or
Yeah.
for that, and say like, hey, and here's a 5-year scholarship to be used anytime you want to use it, so that when you're done, right, and you're not playing anymore, and you go, you know what, I got this potential degree in my pocket versus, right, you talk to people, it's like we were when Shane Battier again, we're like, why were you a theology major? And he's like, because it fit into my schedule, you know,
Yeah.
and it's like, so like, hey, maybe you're really interested in becoming a teacher, but you can't do that and play your sport, and so you do something else. Like I feel like I agree with you. Like there's ways that we could defer this so that you remain hungry and I mean just like the transfer portal, right? The ability that as soon as it gets hard, I can just leave. That there's
Yeah.
no growth in that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. There's no growth. But again, the coaches do it as well, right? Like they
Yeah.
leave whenever they want. So, and I understand why. It's business. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're probably leaving for a better opportunity or they're leaving for money. Like
Yeah.
it's probably a little bit of both in most cases, but that's we're talking about young individuals. So we can shape this where they still get the value that they deserve.
Yeah.
I there's families out there that are taking advantage of the process to the point where, yeah, I have a 5-star athlete in my house. We're gonna leverage this to to as much as we can, right? We're gonna
Hmm.
get it as much. We'll commit at this school, and then on signing day we'll go to this school because they offer a million more.
Hmm.
Like that's happening in real time,
Yeah.
but it takes out what's important. Like it might be better for him to go to the school he committed to because he has a position coach that played in the league or has a reputation of putting guys to the getting guys to the next level.
Yeah.
So when you have money in the conversation, it creates an issue and it makes you blind to what's really important. And that's the part I just cannot wrap my mind around. And I don't think the leaders in these positions really care to fast forward to what's best because they're the ones making all the money.
Yeah.
Like coaches are getting paid.
Yeah.
Like they're making significant money. And to me, they are the influencers. They are the leaders that are around these kids every day that can really mold them and help mold them into what they should be.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, talk about like the influential coaches in your life. What was it about them that still stand out to this day? I mean, I always say to coaches like the best paycheck you ever get as a coach is a wedding invitation, right? Like come to the most important event of my life, right? But like I can imagine, I don't know, like no one's ever invited me to their, I'm a soccer coach. No one ever invited me
Mhm.
to their wedding because they're like, oh, you taught me this great formation, right? Like, you taught me to kick a ball. Like, no, it's like you believed in me when I didn't. You pushed me, you challenged me, but you cared about me as a human being. Like what is it? Maybe if you want to just name one or two coaches that stick out in your mind, or as many as you want, and what was it about them that really makes
Yeah.
it pop into your head?
I was coaches, coaching styles, 28 years of football. That's, you think about the different leaders I've been exposed to. I think more than anything, my coach in high school, I would say sticks out the most. Um, I had him just as long as any other coach I've had in my career, 4 years in high school.
Yeah.
And I think I had Shanahan maybe 4 or 5 years. So they're neck and neck, and they're both Eastern Illinois grads, random.
Yeah.
Um,
Or maybe not.
so yeah, right. So for me, it was he would always for one he was a guy that was a little delusional about what we were capable of doing, which meant he tried to kill us. And it made me so tough and ready for anything. I mean, we would do the most gruesome workouts. The conditioning drills would be crazy. So I was prepared for everything. And he demanded his leaders to lead by example.
Mm-hmm.
So and that was just, you got to be at the front of the line running gassers. And there would be younger guys that probably just faster, but it didn't matter. We still had to win, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we would all just his motto was expect to win. And I just he would always say it's not just expecting to win the game, just like expect to win every day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what really sat with me. And that had a lot to do with how I approached the game. But it was such a subconscious thing by the time I got older. It was just what I did. But he instilled expect to win, expect to win. Like, but the only way you do is through preparation. And then
Mm-hmm.
he would kind of peel back the layers on what that meant. And I would say that was something I always took with me. Like, I'm gonna dominate today, like it's, the last day. And
Yeah.
that's how I approached every time I put the cleats on.
Yeah. And the phrase that we use with our teams is win the day. Like win the day, win
Yeah,
today, right? Because if you win the day enough times, you're probably
yeah,
going to win on the weekend, right?
yeah,
But if you just want to win, like everyone wants to win on Saturday, who wants to
yeah,
win 6 months before Saturday?
yeah,
Right? Who wants
yeah,
to win when you don't have games for 4 more months? Like that's the difference maker.
yeah.
And
It is.
I love so when you talk about leading by example, right? Your brother and your high school coach is like
Yeah,
you can't and it sounds like he cared so much too. Like he didn't it's not like you cared more than him or you were more passionate than him. Like he was right there with you. Like that's a person you can follow.
yeah. Of course. I mean, again, the best influencers are the ones that are showing you how to do it.
Hmm.
Like if if you got a blueprint right next to you or right in front of you, it helps. It helps. Then you have no excuse. But I think when you have this competitive nature and you're striving for greatness or excellence, you're gonna dial into what it really takes to get there. And
Yeah.
I just sort of fell into that model.
Yeah. Um, what about what does the word gratitude mean for you in terms of your career, but also the importance of that on the journey as well? And just the story that pops into my head is like I think you only made it to a Super Bowl. Was it your last season?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, but you came close before that, right? And you're like,
Yeah.
and it's like, you know, yeah, I think about those people who, their first or second year, it's like you win a Super Bowl or a World Series or something. Like, ah, this is easy. And
Yeah.
then you
And
never get
then,
back.
yeah. And I'm grateful for my journey, right? Like football taught me so much. And I don't know. I think I appreciate it in real time, because it I made a good living, it shaped who I was, exposed me to a tremendous network of individuals around the country that, I would have never met otherwise. But I didn't appreciate or my gratitude was really heightened when I retired.
Mm,
And not being in those structured environments made me realize how valuable that was to who I was. And, keeping you in line, making you stick to a schedule, learning how to work with others. When you get outside of those walls, you realize that is not the way the world is made up.
yeah.
There are not real teams here. Like people are doing each other dirty, and that it just you can't win unless everybody's marching to the same beat. And that's what the NFL locker room was. Like
Yeah.
it was that dialed in, the debriefing, just the constant, you know, I guess discipline to stick to the process and to make sure you're doing whatever it takes to get wins every day. That was the bottom line, and it taught me how to play my role. It's everything that you want a young individual to be good at, and that's what football was for me. And man, I can't say that I would have been the same way if I did anything else. you know,
Yeah.
all my time in high school and college and my pro career, but football definitely it's the ultimate team sport, and it teaches you how to deal with others.
Yeah.
On good days, bad days, the emotions are high. Sometimes they're low. You lose a teammate. Teammates get moved around. You're back on the same team. So man, it's just so much. You see guys get cut. You got to deal with the pain of that. Because it could be a friend of yours. So my brother get cut from my team. Like, so it's a lot of things that you have to deal with adversity and then triumph and then more adversity, ups and downs. And it just makes you so like emotionally strong, mentally strong, physically strong. And it just teaches you what it means to be a part of a group
Mm,
while you're all marching to the same beat, trying to accomplish a goal that's very clear. So,
yeah.
I'm grateful for that for sure.
I I'm curious your thoughts on this, building on the team thing and this team idea. Um, I read the mental performance coach for the New Zealand All Blacks in rugby just came out with a book, and he cited this study. I think it was by like the Ritz-Carlton. They said in every group there's like three categories, right? And there's like 18% of people are like you, show up early, stay late, do the work, whatever, right? Like these
Yeah.
models. And then he said about, you know, a huge percentage, the biggest percentage is in the middle. They have good days and they have bad days. Some days they're all in, some days they're not. And then he said, like the bottom 15%, he called them the cave people, constantly against virtually everything, right? And they're just like sucking the life out of the
Yeah.
group.
Yeah.
Is that your experience in most of the groups that you've been in, that there's the all-ins and and the ones at the end, and the advice from him is like go after the ones in the middle. Like
Yeah.
get them who are there 50% of the time. If you can get 10-20% of them to be all in every day, man, now it becomes really uncomfortable to be a cave
Yeah.
person.
See, and to me, that sounds like a coach trying to get to understand his players on an individual basis, which
Yeah.
I think helps you become a better coach.
Yeah.
I think you can't simply coach everybody the same. You can't treat them all the same. I don't say you don't treat them fairly, but it to get if you're dealing with somebody who's not self-motivated, how do you motivate that person? It
Yeah.
goes back to empowering your leaders. Like, and that's what he's basically saying. Getting the guys in the middle to help set the tone because the ones up top you don't really have to worry about.
Hmm.
You empower them, give them some voice, you give them the platform. Oh, point out things they do well. This is what it should look like. But at the same time, the idea is to understand who are the ones that don't do this on their own. Who are the ones that make it hard for you to coach and deal with it on a daily basis? How do you get them? How do you get them to buy into the process? And the best way is to empower your leaders on the field and make sure it's very understood what the mission is across the board. And then, but it all starts with understanding your team. You got to identify who they are.
I mean, we've had Steve Kerr, Phil Jackson on this podcast, and they talk like you coach a person, not a sport, right? And
Yeah.
and you when you know what reaches that person and makes that person tick, everyone needs a little something different, and
Man, well
that's the
said.
art of coaching, right? That's the art of
Yeah.
mentorship.
Yeah. And I've seen bad coaches try to just teach you X's and O's, and they don't really they don't really dive into who the players are. And, they don't understand. Like they're in a position where they have to have some deep connection to who the team is as a whole. But that only starts with individuals. You got to know like who to empower, who to lift up, who's doing the work the right way. Like the more you know about your team on an individual basis, the better off you're going to be with how to structure it and how to motivate to ultimately accomplish the goal.
Yeah, I just saw this quote, I think today or yesterday, from Micah Parsons, right, with the Packers now, and
Yeah.
they were asking like what he wants from a coach, and he said, talk to me like a man. Like talk to me like a
Yeah.
human being, right? I'm an adult. You don't have to scream at me. You don't have to yell at me. Talk to me like a person. Is that the difference you see in an NFL
God.
locker room, who's effective versus like a high school coach working with younger kids? I mean, I think respect is always at the center of it. But man, if you can't be talking to 30-year-olds the same way you're talking
Oh
to
God.
14-year-olds.
No, not at all. And to be honest, that resonates with me on all levels because I've seen youth coaches yell at kids that they don't even know yet.
Yeah.
Like, why are you yelling at the kid? You have unrealistic expectations if you're
Hmm.
yelling at him and you don't even know what he's capable of doing.
Yeah.
It's the first day of practice. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you might be yelling out what the drill is or something, but to berate somebody in front of their team and you don't even know that person,
Yeah.
that what are you doing? You're not going to accomplish anything. You're
Yeah.
just hopeful that maybe the kid takes us the right way, but you should know what it takes to motivate or get something out of a kid. Like if you're looking for something, you should know. Until you do, keep your voice down, be direct, and there's a way to communicate what you're looking for without yelling,
Yeah.
because ultimately that it's pointless. Like why
Yeah.
raise your voice? I mean, unless you're yelling across the field or something.
Yeah. In a loud gym, so you can be heard is very different than raising your voice to humiliate someone
Yeah,
or
right.
demean them or whatever. And people call, oh, I'm demanding. No, that's demeaning right there. You can be demanding
Yeah,
in a very quiet way. And I call that like that's like the ESPN coach. They see the little coaching highlight, but they don't see 99% of the interactions between that coach and that
yeah,
player that that then in that one moment he or she raises their voice, but you didn't see the 99% of individual conversations. How's your family? How's your son doing? What's what, that
yeah.
built that trust.
Oh man.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that because I often have to remind people when I'm casually watching football, they're questioning the decisions or why is this guy not playing? Why they call this play? Why they keep running the ball? And I'm like, y'all gotta understand, like there's there's so much more you didn't see during the week of
Yeah.
why this kid is not playing. There may be he probably can't block or he probably can't tackle or and they probably seen it consistently and they're like afraid to put him out there. He's young, like you don't know the plays. Like it's so you don't know all the nuance that comes along with trying to get somebody prepared for a game that ultimately the coach is making decisions. And if you're not in that building every day, you have no idea.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know so as I sit by as a fan watching Georgia, because I'm probably the most passionate about Georgia than anything, we all sit and say our stuff, but we all have to check ourselves, especially when in a group full of football players.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
we all are like, well, we don't really know. Like
Yeah.
we know that whatever they're doing on Tuesday,
Yeah.
and then when we get to Saturday, there could have been something that happened that we
Yeah.
don't know anything about.
Yeah.
Why is this kid sitting out? They said he was playing all week. Now he's not. Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
we don't know. We really don't know.
Yeah.
So, but real fans, like that have never been in those locker rooms, they just say stuff and they assume that it's just that easy. It's not. There's
Yeah.
so many layers to go that goes into coaching a kid, getting them ready for a game, and then putting them in there. Like it's a lot to it. So
It's
you
easy
got
to
to
be a
really
fan.
check yourself. Oh yes, very easy because you don't
And
have to
then
deal
and
with
then
the
fans who think
daily
that they
grind of
care
it.
more than the player. Like, no, you
Yeah,
don't. You didn't spend 100 hours
absolutely
a
not.
week breaking down film and sleeping on the couch as the coach did, or the player. Like, they care, right? They care.
Yeah, they do. They
Yeah.
really do, man. And you just have to live with those decisions. And there's a lot of times I don't agree with decisions, but ultimately, that's my team. I'm a deal with it. We didn't get the outcome we were looking for. Probably would have happened whether I got what I wanted or not. So it doesn't matter. So I'm quick to move on because now I'm just looking forward to how the off season because it's a process. I
Yeah.
mean, that's the process, man. You just gotta stick to what you can control, and it's really how you work every day.
Well, Champ, welcome back. For everyone listening, we had, no, not we, I had a major internet crash last time, and we were 40 minutes into this incredible conversation, and everything shut down on my end. So thank you so much for making the time and coming back so we could finish this interview, man. I'm so excited to ask these last questions. They were burning questions in my mind.
Well, my pleasure, man. No problem. Let's get to it.
All right, cool. Well, I only had two questions left for you at that point, and we were talking about leadership. And one of the things I wanted to ask you about leadership, because Jerry and I are working on this book for team captains, is what do you do as a leader when the coaches make a decision that you don't necessarily agree with, but you gotta go out in front of your team and toe the company line?
Well, that's the thing. I think regardless of what your direction is from said coach or whoever is in the leadership position on your team, you want to understand why you're doing things, but it's all about timing too. I think for me, whenever I could give you some good examples. So
Yeah.
there were times when I would match up against a certain receiver. And then there were times when I thought I would match up, and then they decided to do something else.
Mm,
Now, how you handle that, could determine, how the I guess the vibrance in the locker room, or how the team approaches that game. But what I always did was pull the coach aside or go to his office and try to get an understanding on why the things I expected aren't happening. Because, as a leader on the field, what you don't want to do is disrupt anything in front of the whole team, especially when you have a group full of young guys.
yeah.
And that's usually what a locker room's made of. So for me, it was just always just communicate what's going on here. And I remember, it doesn't mean I agree with
Hmm.
what they're telling me, but I always give the coach the right, I guess I'm always going to lean on his direction more than my own. And I'll voice my opinion, but it needs to be clear where I stand.
Yeah.
And when things don't go the way they plan, the plan B is the idea I had in my head,
Yeah.
because we've talked about it, right? So without those discussions, you can't get ahead of these things when things fall apart. Because one thing you know about sports is you're dealing with adverse situations all the time.
Hmm.
Like there's always situations where you gotta figure out how to get out of this hole, or you might be down and now you're trying to figure out how to come back. So it's always circumstances that put you in a situation where it can create some chaos in a locker room.
Yeah.
But as a leader on the field, oh my God, communication is everything. Because I feel like most of the best coaches want to empower their leaders on the field to sort of carry out what the mission is or help carry out or relay messages to the younger players. So it's just a communication thing. You're never gonna agree 100% on everything,
Yeah.
but you always got to make sure that when that whistle blows and that ball's kicked off,
Yeah.
everybody's on the same page.
Yeah. And
Bottom
you don't
line.
like if you're, you disagree privately and then
Yeah.
you have the united front. And because if you come into the huddle and going, this is stupid, I should be covering him, now there's a lack of trust,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Yeah. And then also, like you said, I was like Mike Tyson. He said everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face, right? And so,
Yeah.
you
Same
you
thing.
you said your plan B, and if it's not working, they're probably going to switch to Champ's plan B.
Yeah. Pretty
Yeah.
much. Yeah. And that's happened a lot. I mean, you could think of many things. You have this third down package you're calling, and they didn't run the defense as you thought, or the offensive formations were different from the previous four games. So it's like
Yeah.
now you have to pivot. So being able to handle those things in real time without any chaos, I mean, it's crucial because
Yeah.
again, you're always scrapping and pivoting to something different.
Yeah. Last question on this before we talk about positive athlete. Did you ever have situations where you were out injured and yet you're still asked to lead? Because that's another
Oh yeah.
unique time of leadership, of that when you can't be on the field and you can't necessarily lead through your tackles and your interceptions and your actions on the field, but you still got to lead off the field, right?
Yeah, I actually think, my voice was empowered that way, because of what I'd done before. So I could think about the last 3 or 4 years of my career, I'd be banged up. I probably missed a game every year,
Hmm.
at least one or two. And, I find myself sitting there, and when I'm not playing, I could see more. I could
Yeah.
hear more. I can get the feel for what the locker room really is, and I can understand better what the coaches are expecting from everybody else. Because it takes the focus off myself and making sure I do my work. So I could see that. So yeah, but the beauty of it was at a point in my career where I was respected regardless if I was out there or not. So that's something that I earned, and once I realized that, yes, my voice became a little bit bigger and I can have a little more insight because I see things a little more clear because
Yeah.
I'm not out, I'm on the sideline. I'm not just on one side of the field in practice. I can actually see everything and I'm not looking at myself. I'm looking at everybody else on the field. And those young guys appreciated that because that's when they could really come to me. How did I do on this play? What do you think about that play? And they know that I don't have to worry about what I'm doing because I'm just sitting back watching them.
Yeah. I've heard across many sports how young players talk about how much they appreciate a senior player pouring into
Oh
them,
yeah.
especially like that. And it's almost it's you have to get your own ego and self-centeredness out of the way because you're teaching the guy who's going to take your place,
Yeah.
right? You're mentoring the guy who's eventually probably going to beat you out or you're going to retire or whatever. And for a guy like you who was so good for so long, like that's a hard thing because you have to come to the fact with the reality. I'm not playing forever, and I'm
Yeah.
giving this guy my knowledge to help our team, but it's also going to help him eventually play more than me.
Yeah. John, it could be hard, right? And that's something I never really worried about.
Hmm.
Like I had enough confidence in myself, and I understand the nature of the game. There's always going to be somebody trying to take your spot. There's always going to be a next man up. They're drafting guys every year to try to come in and create depth or whatever the plan is. And they always want the young guys to play better than anybody because
Because they
you're
pay
only
him
going to be
less.
as, yeah, they pay them less. It's a good bargain. But also you're only going to be as good as a team as your young players. Like
Yeah.
you have to develop them and you hope they develop fast. So I knew our team's success counted on them playing well. So regardless of if they take my spot or not, we won't have success if they don't play well. So I'm always about the team first. I can handle my own. But if I can lend a hand and some vision and give some tips to the young guys that's gonna empower our team, I'm all about it.
Yeah, I love that, man. That is so great. So much great stuff from you on this. All right, let's pivot. I'm going to talk about positive athlete. Can you just tell our listeners about this work you're doing now and the impact that it's having?
Well, it's been great. When I was initially approached by Positive Athlete, I didn't see it right away what they were, but the what happened, I was doing some workforce development stuff for the state of Georgia.
Mhm.
A good friend of mine, Burt Jones, who's a lieutenant governor, put me on this committee. And what I realized going around the country was all these different employers and industries needed talent.
Yeah.
That's something that Georgia really like tries to sell, the idea of we're bringing all this business here. We're the business to do state, the state to do business, right?
Hmm.
So for them, they're always looking for the best of the best. Well, the best of the best to me are playing sports.
Hmm.
So once I realized what Positive Athlete was, it just made sense. Because in these meetings, I would always ask the question, y'all looking for talent, the best, most prepared talent are the kids that are playing sports in high school. Like,
Hmm.
let's pour into them. And out of nowhere, here's Positive Athlete. And once I understood it, I'm like, this is the answer. So now we've bridged that gap, right? Now we've done a partnership with the state. They get it. Like, yes, let's pour into the best of the best. The kids that are learning how to be leaders, that are learning how to be role players, teammates. They're understanding how to, you know, be on a team and focus on a mission. And it's not just about what they do on the field. We all know at some point we all hang it up. Whatever sport we're playing, it does not last forever. You
Hmm.
have to find a way to progress out of it.
Yeah.
But while you're in it, you're learning so much good. And we don't focus on the guys that are stuffing the stat sheet. It's all the boys and girls at the high school level playing all sports that are doing the right things. They're great teammates. They show up on time. They're great community leaders. They're involved in several different things. They've overcome injury. That perseverance matters. So we recognize them. We give them scholarship. Well, first we have them nominated. We give them scholarships. Some of them, they have scholarship winners, been in those stories. But the idea is to make sure we're pouring into the kids that are doing the work that we value.
Hmm.
And that's what Athlete is in a nutshell. And I loved it because not only do they have great leaders in Scott Peterson and Ryan Peterson, but we built out a team across the country. I've been helping them scale it for the past year and a half, and it's been beautiful. I mean, we brought on some good corporate partners that understand what we're doing, and I'm just looking forward to the next 3 or 4 years and where we go from here.
Well, it's amazing you see it ripple, right? And like a school can see the impact it has on a kid who gets a nomination, and now they can become much more intentional about nominating more people, you know? And I think you guys even had
Yeah,
statistics around that, like that when a kid gets nominated, they're like way more likely to do more of the behaviors that got them nominated, right? Like you're
yes,
rewarding the good character, you're rewarding the good service to the community, and then they do more of it. So it has this ripple
yeah.
effect.
Absolutely. And I think, if you're not the person that's starting or, you're not putting up 1,000 yards rushing or you're not scoring 40 points a game, you know, you're not the top athlete, but you might be the top person on the team, and I think that needs to be rewarded because a lot of times you never know because in those situations in practice, they're not the ones being yelled at and talked to because they're always doing the right thing.
Yeah.
It's the guys that they're expecting to play and practice at a high level that are getting all the attention.
Yeah.
So I think it's very good, a good practice to acknowledge these kids and that they are doing something right. Not just because they're not playing at a high level, they're performing at a high level as a person. And that's what should be valued more than anything.
Yeah. 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 It's so true. And you think like if you asked all your players on your football team to line up in order from, who epitomizes our team standards and values and everything the most versus the least. The kids would fight over what position. No,
Yeah.
I'm better than you, whatever. But like you would probably have a lot of kids that might be the second string that might not play a lot who are really doing everything right all the time because they have to keep up. And it's like
Yeah.
so, and like you said, the stat sheet, the newspaper, the postseason awards, those kids who are the best are getting plenty of recognition already.
Yeah.
So let's make an effort to recognize what we say really matters.
Yeah. And we all know sitting here on the right side of 40, I say. I'm not gonna say the wrong side
Yeah.
because this is where we live, right? But as we reflect, we all know like that's what really matters in
Yeah.
this real world. Like those qualities and those character traits are what really matters. And I think one of the best things about it is for any coach or parent or administrator, AD to nominate a kid, it doesn't cost you anything except 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So, there's no limit on how many kids you can nominate. So,
Hmm.
any kids that are doing the right things, all sports, all genders, let's get them nominated.
Yeah. 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 Just like let's recognize them. Let's get them out there. And
Yeah.
I think like they can be nominated by a coach, a principal, even
Yep.
a parent. A
Yep.
parent can see a kid and nominate him and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody 18 or older can nominate anybody. You go
Yeah.
to positiveathlete.org, just follow the steps, and it's really simple. The idea is to get these kids recognized. And I think what really like was the icing on the cake, and you said it, when they get nominated, their confidence goes up. And we understand the battle with mental health at this age group
Mhm.
these days.
Yeah.
It's a lot worse than what we saw growing up. So being able to give these kids confidence and let them know that they're appreciated, I think it carries a lot of weight and is very valuable to how they perceive themselves.
Yeah, and they can get, the certain ones can also get scholarships at the end of it as
Yeah,
well to help them,
that's right.
go on to school afterwards, right?
Yeah, and then every nominee also gets access to our app that allows them to continue to build on those traits. There's a lot of modules that they can go through with, character development things and videos that they can watch, steps they go through just to exercise those traits, exercise your mind. And really the idea is to then give them opportunities. And that can all happen in our app.
Yeah. Um, the do you remember years? Well, obviously because in football, the Rudy and the movie and everything. Do you remember when ESPN used to do the Rudy Awards? So
I remember vaguely. I remember
vaguely,
that.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
15, 20 years ago. Right? It was a long time ago. And anyway,
Yeah.
a friend of mine is the one who started that. And it got picked up by ESPN and he would tell me the stories of the people who eventually got nominated for those things.
Yeah.
And they're way better than the story of the quarterback who threw for 3,000 yards.
Yeah.
Like the stories were unbelievable about the kids, coming back from a horrible injury or near death thing or a family
Yeah.
tragedy. And he's like, we would sit there on the committee and go, how do you even pick a winner? Like it was so incredible. And this,
They're all
you're kind of
winners.
doing your version of that, man.
That's what positive athlete is in a nutshell.
Yeah.
At scale,
At
right?
scale.
Like
Yeah.
that's exactly that's a great example of what we do
Yeah.
because again, what they do off the field matters
Yeah.
and how they carry themselves, how they approach their teammates, how they approach their teamwork, like all that stuff matters.
Yeah.
So those are the ones that are going to be the leaders in this country, the ones that are CEOs, all these girls and boys that are doing the right things at this time in their lives. We need to understand how important it is to tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, great work,
Yeah.
you know. But
Yeah.
now we could do it with a nomination and a potential scholarship.
Absolutely love it, man. And it's positiveathlete.org for those who are listening. Just go
Yeah.
on there, check it out. Great website, easy to figure out how to nominate people and
Oh yeah.
everything. And I hope if you're listening, and you have a kid in mind, like put a nomination in, man.
A kid
Because
or two.
a kid or two, a kid or two. Yeah, exactly. Um,
Yeah, man.
Awesome. Well, the next part here is super cool because in all these podcasts, there's not too many people who are like, "Hey, I got some questions for you." So
Yeah, yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, "Of course, man, I'd be honored." So whenever you're ready, fire away, man. I'd love to
Well,
answer some of your questions too.
first of all, we value your experience, your feedback, your leadership qualities. Why not ask you some of the same things you asked me? But it's definitely going to be centered around positive athlete. So just let's just put your coaching hat on for a second. And I wrote down a few things.
Yeah,
I'll fly through them. And you
yeah,
just give me your best answer. So What values do you, I guess, what do you value most at the high school level from a character point of view? And what would it mean for you to nominate a kid as a positive athlete? What are you looking for?
That's a great question. I think number one, the discipline, right? The hard work, that willingness to just show up every day and aspire to the standard of what we're trying to do here. Two, what's really important for me is how you treat your teammates. That
Yeah.
you make everyone feel like they are contributing and you have a role here. The athletes sometimes that I think most of are the ones who are maybe an upperclassman and they're given a leadership role, but then maybe aren't playing as much as they really want to. And I
Hmm.
remember a kid with a program I worked with, a Division I soccer program, and he was a senior and he was a captain and he was barely playing, but the best attitude, the best effort, showed up every
Hmm.
day, gave everything. And I remember the last game of the season, tie game, 2 minutes left, penalty kick for his team. The coach goes, "Go take it," and he scores. And they win the game, his last game of his senior year, and just his excitement to score that winning goal and do that, but he earned that over years of just showing up, working hard, and just being this incredible human being. I think as a coach, man, that's one of my favorite moments ever.
Man, look, we all know when we reflect 10, 15 years from now, that's going to be the kid that's doing all the right things in life, right? Like
Amen.
that's
Amen.
that's how it works. Okay, so let's move on. So, what do you see as I guess, your top two or three things that's most transferable from these sports? Like all the traits that you build through sports, what's most transferable to life and career?
I think number one, if you become when you work hard at a sport, doing hard things, right? It's hard to eat well, to sleep. It's hard to go to the
Yeah,
weight room 8 months before your next game. It's hard to show up every day and do the fitness and all that. And life, like I think a lot of kids think life gets easier, but as you know, and life gets harder, right? It gets harder when you become a parent. It gets harder as you move on. The challenges just get bigger, the consequences get bigger. And so I think when I meet a kid who's been an athlete and they've done it at a certain level, high school, varsity, college
mhm,
level, and beyond, I know how to do hard things, right? And if you know how
yeah,
to do hard things, you're probably gonna figure out ways to make my business better, make my
yeah,
community better, make my church better, or whatever. So that's really one. And then number two, I think resilience and persistence, right? That
yeah,
you can that you can set a goal that I want to do this thing, and it's not something that I'm going to accomplish in the next hour or the next week or the next year, that I can stick with it year after year after year, um, and get good at something. That's a quality. And then number three, hopefully, that you're coachable, right?
yeah,
That you can take critical feedback and get better because I'm trying to make you better. I don't want to hire someone who, every time I say, "Hey, if you did it this way, it'd be better," you're going to throw a hissy fit or go sit in your office for, moping. I want someone who says, "Yeah." And I'll tell you a funny story. So I live in Bend, Oregon. We had a guy named Ashton Eaton here, and he's become a friend. And Ashton won two Olympic decathlon gold medals, right?
wow,
University of Oregon guy, world record holder in the decathlon, and now he's in the business world, right? He works for Nike now. And Ashton's like, I go into my boss and go, "All right, tell me, what can I do to get better?" He's like, "I've been coached my whole life. I actively seek out feedback." And he's like, "My
yeah,
bosses are always like, whoa, no one else comes in here asking for feedback." They're all like, when they meet with me, they're like, "Oh God, what's going to go wrong?" And he's like, and you're
yeah.
like, "Yes, tell me what's wrong so I can make it better." And I mean, talk about that. That's the person you want on your team, isn't it?
Hey, look, all the time. You know, it's funny when you talk about doing hard things. I'm dealing with this with my 16-year-old right now. He's running track. His coach demands that he runs the 400. He dreads it. So he's complaining to us at home. And my wife is like, should you go talk to the coach and this and that? I'm like, no, I'm not doing anything. But one, he's good at it. It's just hard. I'm like, this is gonna make him better. This is gonna make him run better in all his other races, the 200, the 100 that he wants to run. This is what he needs to do. So he's finding a way to get through it and also perform at a high level. I'm like, you have no idea how this is gonna make him better. Now, if he had a bad coach, I would probably question it more. But
Hmm.
he has a really good coach that's very insightful, understands how important it is that he runs his race hard. He's just a sophomore.
Yeah.
So he's not even strong enough to be great at the 100.
Hmm.
You know, he's still growing. So I look at the bigger picture because I remember those days dreading running that 4x4 at the end of at the end of the meet. I was a short distance jump guy. Like I was, never did anything over 200, over 100 actually. But but I understood, like I wish I did it in hindsight. Like I look back, I'm like, dang, I wish I did it. I would have been better at these other things.
Yeah.
So I'm allowing him to go through this sort of dreadfully. He comes home tired as hell every day. I'm like, man, this is gonna really make him tougher. This is gonna help him. And he's gonna love that he did it in the end. And but he's not a complainer. He'll complain to us, but he'll never complain to his coach.
Yeah.
So that's what I love about it.
Yeah.
Because now the coach knows. I tell the coach, I'm like, he doesn't want that 400, but keep pushing him.
Yeah.
That's what I tell him.
Yeah.
But I don't need to because I think he understands that. But we just laugh about it because we used to be in his shoes.
Yeah. And that's the hard
So
part, I think, as a
yeah,
parent,
man.
right? When you're like, is this difficult? I need to let it go. Is this dangerous? I need to intervene, right? And you look
Oh
at the
yeah,
coach,
yeah.
and the coach loves my kid, and he's doing
Mhm.
it, and it's good for my kid. This is just difficult. And now I take a
Yeah,
step back and say, no, I'm not going to go talk to the coach. Yeah, I'm going to go talk to the
yeah.
coach and go, keep going, man. Keep going. I love it.
So now we're all adults. Now, when you reflect on where you were in high school, what would you tell your younger self to make you more prepared for what you deal with now?
I think one of the biggest things I would tell my younger self is you never know when this is going to be over. So make the most of every moment. Like you just never know. So, for example, for me personally, I missed right before my senior year of high school soccer season. I broke my leg really badly, tib fib, and missed my whole senior year. Right? Never got to have a senior
Man,
year. Never got to, my
that
team. I
sucks.
was the captain. Had to stand there on the
Wow.
sidelines in crutches. Had to, and we won the championship. And I didn't get to play a moment. But my junior year, we lost in like the state semifinal playoffs and gone. And I just remember thinking that moment, like, oh yeah, well, I got next year. I didn't. Right. So
Oh
so
man.
never approach a season thinking I got next year because you just never know. Make the most of that moment because that might be your moment.
Wow. Well said. Well said. Well, last question I got for you. What would be the best career advice you have, like that you've received outside of sports?
Probably tell the truth. Like
Hmm.
be known as a person of integrity and honesty, right? So as a coach, as a mentor, as a business leader, and I remember, when I was a college coach, assistant coach, my first coach said this to me. He said, "Listen, always tell the truth." Because people
Hmm.
might not like to hear the truth, right? And I was coaching younger kids at the time who were trying to play in college, and like, the college coach is going to call you, and you need to tell him the truth or her the truth. This guy's good enough, or they're not good enough for you, right? So you tell the kid the truth, the parent the truth, the coach the truth. Now they might not like it in the moment, but they can't ever question that you gave your honest opinion. And I feel like
Okay.
that has carried me for, 30 something years now since I, have, coached and everything. of like, listen, I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm not going to just tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear. And I could be wrong. And if you prove me wrong, amen. Right? I mean, I had a kid, I remember that I was like, I don't think you could play Division One, and he went to Wake Forest and was an all ACC player. Amen. You were wrong. And I was the first one to be like, never saw it, man. I am so proud of you. Let me buy you dinner. You know,
Yeah.
but be a truth teller to your players, to your kids, to your friends, and they might say, "Well, yeah, John's a little harsh sometimes, but I know he's
Yeah.
giving me his honest opinion. I know I can believe what he says."
Yeah. And one of the experiences I think throughout, whether it was when I was playing or even post career is when you got to meet with somebody, if you're going to be late, let them know.
Yeah,
And to me, those little things, I'm not talking about 5 minutes late. If you're 30 minutes late, just let them know. Like it's sort of it's a sort of like small measure of integrity. Like
yeah,
I'm not gonna waste this time. I'm gonna be upfront with them. Regardless of the situation. It just little things like that. And that's what I always try to tell my son. Like if you don't want to do something or you need something or you can't be somewhere, let the coach know.
yeah,
Let your
yeah,
teammates know or whoever needs to know, let them know because now they know where you're coming from. They know what to expect from you, and you're not surprising them and disappointing them in the process, right? So it's one of those things. It's hard as hell to earn respect,
yeah,
and but it's easy to lose it, and
yeah,
you just don't want to lose that because a lot of times that's what's gonna matter in the long run.
yeah,
Because when you have a job, there may not be room for uh, disappointments. You could be one and done. So just always lead with that. So
yeah.
well
Well,
said. Well said.
can I share a cool story on that? My
Go ahead.
favorite. 1992 Olympic Dream Team basketball. You remember those guys, right?
Oh
First
yeah.
time they've brought all the best players in the world, the Jordans, Isaiah Thomas, everyone together for the Barcelona Olympics. And Chuck Daly's the coach. He was coach of the Pistons. And
Yeah.
so he brings them together for his first team meeting. And, everyone's like, what's he going to say? And he just says, we only have one rule: be on time. That's it. Be on time. That's the only rule, which is respect your teammates, right? And
Yeah.
you know
That's all
what?
it is.
You're all the leading scorer and you're all stars, and you're not going to fulfill that role here, but respect your teammates and your role. Be on time. So the first practice that they have right after that, Michael Jordan shows up 45 minutes early for the first bus and gets on the bus. Best player in the world, 45
Yeah.
minutes early, be on time. And they said that whole Olympic cycle from training camp to going to Spain to winning the gold medal, everyone like the latest anyone ever showed up was 15 minutes early. That was on,
Damn.
that was it. That's
That
pretty
doesn't
cool.
exist these days.
Doesn't
Oh
exist these
man,
days.
these
But
these kids roll into the meeting 3 seconds before it starts.
right,
If you're lucky.
if you're lucky. But when you got Michael Jordan, right,
Oh yeah,
going, I'm going to be on that bus, so who are you not to be on that bus, right?
yeah.
It just says a lot. And this kind of
Oh
our whole
yeah,
conversation is around that. Like, yeah, you want to lead, you better model it first.
yeah. It's no. I guess it's not surprising that he's one of the better businessmen in the world right now. So, you know, he's built a great brand and still doing it. And now he's
Yeah.
winning NASCAR
Now
races.
he's
It's
winning
unbelievable.
NASCAR races and NASCAR lawsuits.
Yeah, that's one thing you realize as an athlete when you retire, man. You could get into anything.
Yeah.
I mean, the flexibility is unbelievable. So I
Yeah.
appreciate it, John.
Hey
Well
man,
said.
champ, this was unbelievable. Thank you so much for coming on twice to finish
Yeah,
this up.
yeah.
You,
I'm sure it's
you
not the last time.
I hope not, man. And congrats on the great work you guys are doing with Positive Athlete, and hopefully some listeners here will you'll get a bunch of nominations. And we really appreciate you being on the Way of Champions, man. You're a true champion, and we're honored to have had you on.
All right, I appreciate you. Thanks for answering my questions.
Thank you all for listening. Again, thank you to Champ Bailey for coming on twice. The first time my internet completely crashed and we were in the middle of this incredible conversation. So if you're watching this on video, that's why we both have different clothes on the second go around. Um, but he made the time to come back on here because he cares so passionately about sports and sharing the lessons that he learned. And I mean, that was just a master class on discipline and leadership and athlete development and all those things, right? That was like the best of the best right there, from Champ. So I truly appreciate it. Positiveathlete.org is the website, and yeah, it's just that was what a conversation. That's definitely going to make some of those quotes are going to be in the new book Jerry and I are writing about how to be a great leader and team captain. So, all right. Thank you to Sprocket Sports. Thank you to our Patreon podcast champions. And thank you to all of you who leave reviews, who share this, who send this out. I mean, man, this is a good one. If you're coaching any sport, but especially you're coaching football, send this to your players. This is what someone who's an NFL Hall of Famer does. Okay. Last piece. By the time this goes out, it might be full, but I think we still have one or two spots left in the Way of Champions certification this summer in Lake George, Colorado, June 11th to 14th. You want to grab that, spend a couple days in the mountains of Colorado with Dr. Jerry Lynch and I. Just go to changethegameproject.com and look up on the main menu, WOC certification, sign up. We got payment plans, but we'd love to see you in June. Fill those last couple spots. Stay out in the beautiful Rocky Mountains. Take a deep dive into personal development and self-awareness and team culture and get certified and licensed to take everything that we teach to our teams and bring it back to your school, bring it back to your club, bring it back to your team, bring it back to your community. Okay? Remember, everyone, your influence is never neutral. So go out there, change the world, make a difference. See you again next week.